It's a rephrasing of the very famous line from the book that was repeated in the Jackson trilogy word for word, which is when Frodo is talking to Gandalf about the pity Bilbo had on Smeagol, right? On Gollum. And he says, don't be so quick to dish out death and judgment, right?
Yeah.
And that was the foundation of this stupid bombadilism. Here's a point that I really would like to make, especially with Numenor, but kind of across the whole show, but especially with Numenor because they have so much screen time. This is supposed to be like the big Game of Thrones moment, right? There's been a takeover of the throne, a usurping of the throne, in fact, and the people who are loyal to the original lineage are being persecuted and being forced to bend the knee or die, right? So we're focusing in on Elendil. This is supposed to be a big moment, like where we're supposed to care about Muriel and Elendil and his daughter and all these people's relationships, like we might have seen from Game of Thrones. However, I don't give a crap about any of these characters or anything that happens in Numenor because it doesn't feel like a real place, and we haven't had sufficient time to build likability, to build intrigue, to see yourself in these characters. And they're doing all of these moments, but it's literally, it's like, remember the very first film, right? It was just a picture of a horse, like, doing this, and it was just on this spin. You know what I mean? It was light and shapes that were going in front of light. There was nothing entertaining or emotionally drawing for that. It was just visuals doing something, right? That's what this show feels like, and that's what the whole Numenorian narrative feels like. There's no investing at all. Like I was saying before we started, I feel way more, and still not a lot because it's all very convoluted, but I feel way more invested in seeing if Anatar Sauron actually successfully gets his rings made.
Yeah, it's more how. I just kind of want to see how.
But I'm more invested in that story than I am this whole narrative that takes up screen time with Numenorians. And I would be like, why not just ignore Numenor and spend a lot of time with the elves and Anatar to have these rings made, and do a whole show about Numenor where you stay consistent with what's in the book and spend real time to get to know these characters? Because they're doing what Game of Thrones wanted to do, have all of these characters, all of these narratives, and you just care about all of them, but they're not good enough storytellers to do that, because I don't care about a single character in the show.
Agreed.
I'm sorry to go on a rant, but I just, this is so frustrating to week after week to invest our time into watching this garbage. And it's not like 30 minutes like freaking The Acolyte was. Yeah. We have to drudge through an hour of dull, non-interesting characters that just frustrates you, cringes you out, or puts you to sleep. That's this whole show.
Moments in this. Let's get through a couple more parts of the episode. So I think probably the section I have the most notes about, even though it's a relatively small section, is the Tom Bombadil section. After the easy snap cuffs, I have a couple of stuff here. So he mentions the secret fire.
Yeah.
A couple times he mentions the secret fire.
Right. Secret fire.
Wielding the secret fire.
Everything that he says feels very like cryptic, but yet like not good cryptic.
Yeah.
It's like
it's like nonsensical.
I see that light and it is glowing with passion.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's like,
it doesn't make sense. Now, almost every line, Bombadil is a big offender of this because they're trying to make this character feel ancient, but this whole show is full of nonsense word salads. That's what this whole show is. It literally, these fancy phrases don't mean a dang thing.
There's a couple times there where the camera zooms in and he says something like it's supposed to have weight. None of the lines have weight. They have one where he's like, he's like, "Where are we going?" And it like zooms in on him as he puts on his hat, and he's like, "You're just gonna follow old Tom." And I was like, "What?
Well,
What is this?"
that shot was the moment of the revealing of the wizard hat.
Then we get to Bombadil and Gandalf at the trees,
Yeah,
and
the
we
staff.
get some beautiful dialogue where Tom Bombadil says, maybe some maybe there are some bad people that deserve to live and some good people that deserve to die. It's just actual Gandalf dialogue.
No, so what it is, it's a rephrasing of the very famous line
Mhm.
from the book that was repeated in the Jackson trilogy word for word,
Mhm.
which is when Frodo is talking to Gandalf about the pity Bilbo had on Smeagol, right?
Mhm.
On Gollum. And he says, don't be so quick to dish out death and judgment, right?
Yeah.
And that was the foundation of this stupid Bombadilism, which was basically like he was talking about he wants to save Nori, and then he's like, well, some good people die and some bad people live. Who are you to dish out what happens there? You know what I
I
mean?
want to say that Gandalf says that exact thing. That there are some, there are some that live that maybe deserve to die, and some that die that deserve to live.
I don't
I want
know.
to say he has that exact piece of dialogue.
The first thing I thought was the conversation he had with Frodo. Don't be so quick to deal out death and
Yeah,
judgment.
and I believe he says that right after. The quote is, "Many that live deserve death, some that die deserve life. Can you give it to them? Do not be too eager to deal out death and
Mhm.
judgment."
There it is. Yeah.
He says that almost verbatim.
Almost verbatim.
And then
Yeah.
and then we switch from Lord of the Rings to Star Wars. He says Nori or your destiny. Right? He's like, "Are you gonna go save your friends, or are you gonna stay here and train?"
Yeah, that's a Yoda right there.
That's a Yoda thing. That's Yoda. That's Luke and Yoda. And so now, Gandalf Skywalker has to train and find his lightsaber and choose between his friends or his destiny. Will he be able to defeat both Lord Vaders, one in the east and
Mhm.
one in the west?
Well,
And
there is
will
always two.
Yeah,
Uh,
there's always to a
guards.
master and an apprentice.
There's
The
a master and
rule of
apprentice.
two.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah.
you.
The two towers, if you will.
Two towers. And so I guarantee you, he will find his staff. He'll find a stick. He
Uh-huh.
won't be sure. He'll have a vision of Nori fighting off the shy guys, and that's a Mario reference for those of you
Mhm.
who aren't familiar. Though, and then he'll run off.
Well, yeah.
He'll be like, "I know I'm disobeying Tom Bombadil by running off and saving my friends," but Tom will be up on the hill and he'll be like smiling and nodding as he sees him running off in the
Be like
distance. Like,
destiny.
I knew it.
Destiny rewritten.
He's like, that's his destiny.
Yeah.
And then
His
he'll
love for that
whistle
house.
and hum and walk away.
Is that before or after he has to use the force to lift his
Yeah.
aircraft out of the water?
He's running around. He's running through that forest with Tom Bombadil on his back. Touch me by my side,
That would be
Steve.
How much you guys want to bet that none of those trees that Tom brought him to are going to be what he pulls the staff from? It's going to be that freaking tree by the smiles, by the
man.
halfling thing.
Oh, you think by the
Yeah.
halflings?
I think he's going to get his staff from that freaking tree.